Welcome to The Global Girlfriend.
Shall we book a trip to New York City?
Yup. All right, everybody, welcome back to The Global Girlfriend. My name's Brianna.
Yes, and my name's Morgan, and we're so happy to have you here today.
If this is your first episode, welcome to the sisterhood. And if you are returning to us, we are so happy you have decided to come back.
Yes.
We have a super special guest today that we are so excited to welcome to the Global Girlfriend. Brooklyn is here. She is an accomplished musician from Canada. She has toured all across Canada, the United States, and Europe as a solo artist. She's traveled with some incredible Canadian bands. She writes all of her own music. She is just a wonderful, wonderful voice and singer and songwriter, and we are so excited to have her on the podcast today. Everybody, welcome Brooklyn.
Yeah. Go Brooklyn! Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi. With an intro like that, I never need to go on another podcast again. This is great.
We are so excited to have you here because obviously as a travel podcast, there's so many different types of travel and you've been on so many tours. So we are so excited to sort of get into what tour life is like, because I think a lot of people see musicians, they see the vans, they see the list of cities that they're traveling to, but common folk like us, we don't really know what that's like. So we are excited to hear all of your stories. Why don't we start? Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe how you first got into music?
Yeah, so my name is Brooklyn. I've been singing and playing music for the longest time, but I think that Brie was probably at one of my first ever concerts that I did in university. I performed at this bar called the Ab, and I played the theme song from Arthur for this talent show. And then I realized that I actually wanted to do music for real and write more of my own stuff instead of just performing at theater fundraiser. So that's what brings me to this podcast. But I've been playing and touring music for a really long time. I've been to some really cool places. I've been to the Arctic in Canada, to Iqaluit for the Alienate Arts Festival. I've been to Scandinavia. I've been all across the US. I've been to England, and it's been really fun, but it's been very different from the world of traveling outside of the music industry. So I'm really excited to talk about that today.
We are so excited to talk about that also. Maybe you can share a little bit about, because you've had a very interesting journey. How did you go from playing in the Ab to playing in Scandinavia? Was that an immediate jump? What was that journey like?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Music is one of those experiences where you're kind of chasing a river in a lot of different directions. So when I first started performing music, it was a lot of open mics and coffee houses and breweries. And then I put out my first record in 2016. It was a full-length album called These Paper Wings, and it was sad lesbian folk music. And my friend Rory, a Canadian folk musician as well, had been touring for a long time, and he kind of showed me the ropes of how to book your own tours without a team, without a manager, without a booking agent. And then from there, I made friends with a lot of musicians in a lot of different bands. And I've been really lucky to tour with Cancer Bats, which is a Canadian hardcore punk band. And they've taken me all over the world. And it's been a really interesting experience because I see touring as maybe three different levels. You can tour in a car to a local venue on the weekend. You can tour in a van. You can tour in a tour bus. And all of those different ways of touring and at different stages in your career have different elements that go along with it that changes your experience.
That's awesome. And I am excited to learn more about it. Keeping in mind sort of all of the different shows that you have played, what is it about performing live that you love the most?
Ooh, that's a good question. I really like connecting with the audience. Sometimes you can play a show for like 10,000 people and not have that same audience reaction as 20 of your closest friends who are really engaged in the music that you're making. I've played some shows in a lot of really crappy bars where people are more interested in the sports game that's playing than the music that's happening on stage. So it's a very unglamorous because in some cities that you play, you're going to have a great reception. And in some cities, it's going to really suck. Or you'll play to just the bartender. Um, so I've run the gambit. I think that a lot of musicians in the industry feel that once you get to a certain level in your career, that you're always going to be playing these fancy, exciting shows, opening for these big name artists. And while that may be true, I remember once I played a really large stage in Canada for 10,000 people. And then the next day I played at a bar in another town to like 5 people. So it's really, there's no, I've made it. You're always in the process of.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the behind the scenes of touring. So what does day-to-day life on tour actually look like?
Oh my goodness. So it's different from tour to tour.
Mm-hmm.
I'll describe 2 different days. One day is my sad lesbian folk life. In 2023, I put out a record called Fixer Upper. I took that on a month-long tour throughout the East Coast and Ontario of Canada. And what that looked like was waking up in a car that I had modified to be a camper with all of my gear surrounding me, finding a washroom that I could change in, getting all dolled up, driving to the next city, loading in at about 3 or 4, maybe doing a radio interview in that town if there's a college radio station that's willing to have you on to promote the show. Then there's always like a weird 3 to 4 hours in between sound checking and the show actually starting where you're just hanging out in the area that the venue is. So if you're in a really cool area of downtown in that city, then you get to explore that part of the city. If you're playing a warehouse in an industrial part of town, you're probably just sitting at the venue. Um, and then I'll fold it back to a day in the life of touring with a larger punk band. That's a van tour. So I don't have to drive, which means that I have way more downtime in the back of the van to read my book, to call my partner, to have a vibe. We get there, we load in. Um, for those tours, I'm also doing social media. So I'm filming the whole time we're in the van and we're loading in. And I'm also doing all of the merch because I'm a guest vocalist. So I'm not on stage for the whole show. So when I'm not on stage, I'm setting up the merch and selling the merch and dealing with the people who work at the venue to make sure that we're getting paid out correctly. And that whole process is really fun. But because I'm with a band, we have more of a timeline to follow and less of I can just get in my car whenever and drive. So we have calls where we need to be back at the van. And then if you're touring in a big tour bus, it's much different because the tour bus will drive to the next city overnight. So if you're playing a show in Italy, they'll drive the tour bus to France overnight and you can wake up and have the whole day in that city to explore, which is really fun. But also, when I get home from tour, a lot of my friends and families will be like, wow, you went to Greece, you went to Scandinavia, you went to Copenhagen. What was your favorite part? And I'll be like, it all looked like the same venue inside. I did not get to see anything beyond a 1 block radius of the venue that day.
That's awesome. What surprised you about touring? So I mean, you have sort of like worked your way through many different types of tours. I think there's
Yeah.
a big like we always anticipate something will be one way and something is really different. What surprised you the most? What was like the most different for you?
Oh my goodness. Ah, there's a lot of things that are different from touring. I think you spoke with another guest once about time zones and calling your families, and that's something that resonated with me because a lot of the time when I'm touring, I wonder if you feel the same when you're traveling for work or for pleasure, that you almost separate that from real life. And you're like, well, this is my real life at home, and this is tour life. So my real life doesn't matter to me when I'm on tour life. And I do this thing where I set myself up for tour now that I've like been through it a couple times. I'm like, oh, I've set up all my day job work so that I don't have to think about it on tour. And I've set up all my bills and my rent payments and everything so that I don't have to think about it on tour. And then my brain kind of separates into, this is my traveling life and this is my regular life. And I don't know if that's healthy or not healthy. I don't know. Do you feel the same way?
Well, what about you? I'm trying to think. I think it kind of depends for me. I think sometimes, I think I've talked to a lot of people who are very similar that have their kind of like, they're in their travel mindset, they're where they at and they're there. But so I think it depends. I think with like living abroad, it was more like trying to figure out how to incorporate it. But on trips, I feel like
Right.
I'm also like you, like just I'm on that trip and I want to be there.
Yeah. It's almost like the stuff back home doesn't matter so much, except for the time zone thing where um, before I started touring, actually, this is the thing that really surprised me the most about touring. When I would go to hotels, I would be like, who sits in the lobby? Who's sitting in the chairs of the lobby of a hotel? Nobody. Why did they have those? And then turns out it's me at 4 a.m. speaking really quietly to my wife on the phone while making direct eye contact with the man working behind the desk the whole time.
I love that. Okay, I love that visual of you in the lobby
Right?
just chatting.
Right? Because on those tours, to save money for your budget, you're oftentimes sharing a bed or a room with other people on the tour, other crew people, other band members. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, they're sleeping at 4 a.m. I'm phoning my partner because it's a 7 hour time difference, and she's waking up to get ready to start her day. And she's like, hi, I'm on my way to work. And I'm like, it's 4 a.m. The guy working here is really mad at me right now. He just keeps looking over. And
Oh,
so
that's hilarious.
there's very that. It's hard to be intimate with your loved one on a tour
Oh
when
yeah.
there's zero sense of privacy.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that makes so much sense. So, like, how would you say that? So, with not having as much time to yourself, even to talk to your loved ones, how would you say that you take care of yourself mentally and physically when you're on the road?
Ooh, that's a good one. My first couple of tours, I really ran myself ragged. I lost my voice a couple of times. I wasn't taking care of my body because, again, I was thinking of myself as like, this is tour life, this is regular Brooklyn life.
Hmm.
But when you're on tour, there's so much free beer. They just want to give you free beer. Sometimes you don't get paid money and they want to give you beer. And so I would be drinking these beers and then I'd be like, why do I feel awful all the time? So now that I've kind of transitioned from the sleeping in my car tour to sleeping in a hotel tour, I really take advantage of hotel gyms. I'm trying really hard to be a muscle mommy, and that has helped. And another thing that's helped is being on tour with more like-minded individuals. So a lot of the folks who I tour with now are not drinking as heavily, not there to party and meet girls, and are more so business minded and still want to hang and have fun with friends and play shows. But a lot of the people I tour with are either straight edge or sober. So that helps us eat healthy. That's good. And I also
Yeah.
try to do some journaling from the back of the van. Journaling has been really helpful.
That
Yeah.
that is so cool. And honestly, you are a muscle mommy. So
Oh, yeah. If you're watching
I
on the
like the
YouTube, you can see.
I love that term, muscle mommy. That's a good one.
If you're listening on Spotify, just imagine that I'm so muscular.
Brooklyn's ripped.
That's amazing.
Oh man, it's helpful. And also when you're loading in and out gear, it's really heavy to bring amps in and out of venues every day. So I do actually kind of get secretly ripped on tour, not gonna lie.
That's awesome. Okay, so you sort of touched on this already, but I want to get like a little bit more into it. So Brooklyn is just an incredible friend, and we have been friends for, I can't even think about how many years at this point. But
I actually counted. We have been friends for 17 years, which is almost half of my life.
We were like 18 when we met. That's crazy.
That is crazy. I love that.
Isn't that wild?
Lifelong friendships. Across the world.
Almost as long as not being friends, we've been friends. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like
no, it does.
Exactly the halfway point. Yeah.
That is wild. But what I love about the last 17 years is that anywhere where I have lived, which has been all over, we have maintained a really good friendship despite both of our crazy lives. And everything that you have just described in terms of, being in the van, being in the hotel, sleeping in a van overnight, like all of this sort of stuff. How are you so good? Because also you have other things going on at home. Brooklyn just bought a house. It's beautiful. It's amazing.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
So you have so much going on. You have such a full life outside of tour, and yet you are on the road all of the time. How do you balance all of those things? Like how are you such a good friend, Brooklyn?
Stop. I'm not. I feel like I'm actually bad at keeping in touch with people. That is such a good question. I think if you have friends who are in a band, check in on them, message them, because there's weirdly so much more downtime than you think. I feel like I tend to Instagram message people more or Facebook message people more or reach out to people more from my phone when I have to do those long drives.
Okay.
And it gets tough because it's almost like summer camp. When you're in a van with like the same 6 people for a month or 2 months or 3 months, you run out of stuff to talk to them about real quick. And then you start looking at your phone, and you don't want to be the person in the van who's just like always talking. So if you have a musician friend in your life and they are on tour, you should message them. You should check in on them. They're probably not as busy as you think.
Okay. Oh, that's so interesting. But no, honestly, like I feel like I have messaged you from a million time zones and you've always gotten back to me. So you are the best at that.
I feel the same way about you, honestly. You're traveling all over the world and it's so fun. I need to visit you more in the places that you live.
Oh, you should.
You're welcome anytime. You guys are welcome anytime. But on that note, that's actually what we kind of wanted to talk about next was you spend so many days of the year on tour. How do you make time for personal travel? Do you make time for personal travel? When you get home, do you want to be home? Do you still have the desire to go out and see things? What's that like?
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky in that my job is completely work remote for my day job, which means that even if I'm not pulling a decent paycheck from a tour, usually I do pretty well with the punk band, but for the sad lesbian folk music, some shows you make a pretty good penny, some shows you lose money, some shows it's an even wash. So I'm lucky that I have another source of income where I can work completely remote, which means that as long as I have access to the internet, I can travel as much as I'd like. My partner works more in person, which means that she can only take off a certain amount of days per year. And I think I'm of two minds about this because touring has kind of messed with my thoughts about travel for pleasure, because I'm like, well, if I'm going to go to the city, why wouldn't I try to play a show? If I'm going to go to this country, why wouldn't I try to play a show? Why wouldn't I try to like make enough money that my trip becomes free? That's sort of my mindset about it. But then once you start playing the shows, you get into that vicious cycle of like, oh, well, I didn't get to see the place I went to because I played the show. Yeah. But I try to travel, but I think because touring is so like logistics based and trying to get to the next city, I'm less adventure travel now and more like if I'm traveling for pleasure, I am sitting on a beach and I am reading a book, I'm doing nothing, and someone is bringing me a cocktail.
Oh, I love that.
You know?
Everyone needs that in their lives.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I mean, I happen to know a few beaches here in Indonesia.
Yes.
Well, I'm gonna have to learn how to surf.
Yeah. Please come.
I once went on a surf trip where I thought I was doing really amazing at surfing, and it turns out the instructor was holding my board from behind the whole time. And I was like, I'm doing it. And I looked back and I was like, I was not doing it.
That's hilarious.
No, you were doing it. You were doing it. It's all a journey.
It's the beginning of the journey.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll speak. That was a fun story. So speaking of fun stories and maybe lessons from the road, do you have a favorite or funniest memory from one of your tours?
Oh my goodness, I have so many. A favorite memory. One day we flew into Greece to play a show in Athens, and then flew out the same night. That was definitely a wild one. We were so sleep deprived, but the show was so cool. It was in an old cave or crypt that they had turned into a venue. And the promoter of the show took us out for food, and I said, I really want a Greek salad. All I want is a Greek salad from Greece. And they were like, we just call that a salad here.
Oh, wait, that's awesome.
And another memory that really sticks out to me is I played a festival in the Arctic, and the festival was to celebrate 24 hours of sunlight. And I remember leaving the venue at like 3 or 4 a.m. and it was as bright as it was noon. And that was probably one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my whole life.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's really special. Yeah. Okay, love those memories.
Yeah.
Okay, have you had any like tough thing or mishaps happen on any of your tours?
Oh my goodness. I think a tour is not a tour if there isn't a mishap. I think one of the biggest things that is really troublesome for musicians these days is getting robbed. So I know a lot of bands who've had their vans robbed or their trailers robbed. I've lost gear on a couple of tours, having my windows smashed. And as stealth as you can be in your van camping or in your band vanning, it still happens. No matter how stealthy you are or how many air tags you put on your guitar, things still get out of the way. So that's definitely like the biggest bummer. I also think right now it's really difficult for people in the queer community, specifically trans people, to be traveling from Canada to the States right now. So that's definitely something that I've seen impact a lot of my trans and queer friends in the same community as me who are playing music, is that some of those shows have had to shift as we start to navigate what is the new normal in this new world that we're living in. So that's one. And then on a lighter note, I would say I am oftentimes one of or the only woman identified person who's traveling with a bunch of boys. And you would be shocked at how little men change their underwear over the course of the tour.
No, that's hilarious.
I am definitely like one of those girls who's like, well, I have to pack a carry-on for a month or 2 months at a time. So I have to be really like Ziploc baggy compartment, because I want to wear a different outfit every day. I want to like do a little capsule wardrobe. Yeah. But also I'm the same bitch who's like, sorry, I'm the same girl. Also, I'm the same girl who will go on a 2-day weekend adventure and pack 16 pairs of underwear, like just in case
Yeah.
I poop my pants 12 times.
You never know.
So,
You never know.
so when you're touring for 3 months and half your suitcase is underwear, it becomes a wild situation. But a lot of venues have started adding laundry facilities
Oh,
uh,
nice.
in the green room, which is
Oh,
nice.
Good to
Yeah.
know. Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you guys feel the same way about traveling, or am I the only underwear crazy person?
Oh, no, I think,
no.
no, I'm similar. Like, definitely, like, I have a whole bag, reusable bag that I, like, wash and always pack my undies in, and, like, always way too many. Same
I
Right?
story.
So Paloma, who was our guest last week, she and I have the opposite problem. We always forget to bring underwear, and
Oh
both of us
no.
No
have
way.
ended up on trips before, and we're like, oh no, we're here for a week, and we only so then like you gotta go buy some, or like I've been
Yeah,
wearing swimsuits as underwear before.
Yeah.
And
that is
even now when
hilarious.
we're packing, like even now when we're packing to go on a trip, or like even if I'm not going on the trip, Paloma sent me a text the other day. She's like, "Oh, we're going away for the long weekend." I'm like, "Remember to pack your underwear."
Wait,
Yes.
that's amazing. I never knew that. Okay, no, Brooklyn,
Yes.
I'm with you. A million underwear every
Yeah.
time.
But I also like I have to
Love
adopt the
it.
mantra of um unless you're hiking like the Pacific Coast Trail, anywhere you go, you can just buy it if you forgot it.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
true.
that has helped me in my packing that I'm like, if I forgot something, I can just find a place and buy it. It's not, don't let that deter you from packing for your trip, listener.
Yes, that is
Oh,
perspective.
Right? But it also becomes difficult on tour because you're being photographed every night. So you need to make sure that you have an outfit that looks cute.
Hmm.
Then you also need an outfit for chilling in the van.
Yeah.
You also need like pajama. I always bring like full length pant pajamas because you never know if it's going to be cold. And then you also just want to be mindful of the person who you're sleeping next to in a hotel, that you're not going to like touch your foot to their foot if they're not into that. Um, so you have a lot of different things that you have to pack all in one little tiny suitcase. And then also knowing that you're going to be photographed is another wild angle to it. I'm like, I need options.
Oh,
yeah, of
yeah.
course you do.
Absolutely.
Right?
Awesome. All right. Have you, I guess, sort of, to sort of start to wrap things up, let's just go through like a couple of little rapid fire questions. Sound good?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite city to tour in?
Ooh. My favorite Canadian city is Fredericton. And my favorite city in Europe would be Berlin.
Okay.
Ooh.
Where have you always wanted to perform but you haven't performed yet?
Australia.
Ooh, that's
That would be so
awesome.
cool.
Right?
Okay. What is your one must-have item other than your guitar that you must have while you're on tour?
Or undies.
Ooh. Ooh. Um, a notebook.
Okay, very good. And final rapid fire question is, when are you coming to play a show in either Bali or Fort Worth, Texas?
Ooh, whenever you book me, I'll come.
Yes.
Oh, great. I love it. We're sort of getting to the end now. Brooklyn, can you tell everybody where can they find your music or
Yeah,
find you online?
you can listen to my music at brooklyndoran.com. I'm on Spotify, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok. It's just all under Brooklyn Doran. And there you can find all of the music that I make myself and that I've written. And I can direct you to all the bands that I play into.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is so awesome. And then Morgan, where can people find us on the internet if they want to hear more cool travel stories?
Yes. So similarly, we're on different social media platforms. We're on TikTok and Instagram at The Global Girlfriend. And yeah, you can find us on YouTube or Spotify to listen to our podcasts. or shoot us an email if you want to connect there at theglobalgirlfriend@gmail.com.
This has been such a fun episode.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you so much, Brooklyn, for sharing all of your stories. I think so many people have always sort of wondered what is tour life like, and you have really given us a very honest and insightful look into what that world is like. So thank you so much for being here
Thank
today.
you.
Yeah.
Of course. Happy to be here. Happy to answer any more questions if anyone has any more while they're listening. And I hope that you guys had fun too, because this was awesome. I've listened to every episode of this podcast, so I'm your fan.
Oh, well, it's so great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and it's so great to finally meet you. And I just think something super special is when you have friends from all over the world is getting to connect with their friends in different places too. So loved hearing your story and getting to know you better on here.
Yes, I heard all about Kilimanjaro before I met you, and now I'm like coming in starstruck.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you're too kind. Too kind.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful week. We will see you next week.
Yeah, see y'all.